Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to the very first California State Women's Strawweight Champion, as well as the first ever flyweight for champion for Fearless Women MMA. She's the one, the only Jasmine Tapout Queen Pouncy. Jasmine, what's going on?
Nothing, just sitting here chilling. Strawweight, actually, strawweight.
Oh, it's strawweight. I see. I'm good with words, not with numbers, but definitely first ever strawweight champion in both respects, both for the California State Amateur title as well as the Fearless Women MMA title. So you don't get to, you're almost like Carla Esparza, where you don't get to be a first twice, but that has happened. She was the first Invicta champion in her weight division, and then the very first UFC champion in her weight division, and you are basically first champs in two different promotions.
I actually think Diana Mendoza was the first strawweight title. She fought for the title a few months ago, actually.
Yeah, so it was vacant by the time that that you came around, right?
Yeah. So I can't take that title, but
okay, all right. Right on. And shout out to Diana Mendoza. Shout out to Debo because she just inked a deal with Invicta. So just saying, yeah, just saying where you go from a fearless title, that's where you could go. Just saying. Now, obviously. No, I think it's great. I think it's great. Now, I mean, Jasmine, there's been a lot you have done in your career. You're a tenured young veteran. So, how did it all start, getting involved in the sport of combat sports for you?
So, it's kind of a funny story. When I was like 5 or 6, my uncle, who's my coach, Stellis, he saw me boxing outside with my brother's friends, and who were much older than me. I think they had to be like 15. And I was bloodying him up and just like putting hands on him. So that was called my dad, and he was like, dude, they got her out here boxing this dude. He was like, man, when she turns 11, I'm going to train her. And sure enough, he stuck to that. And I was upset. I didn't want to fight. Honestly, like, I did not want to fight. I was running track and dancing and doing aerial at the time. So I'm like, who wants to get punched in the face? But, after a few years, I fell in love with it.
And that's fun, right? Because it's a different kind of complex. The fact that, it's a lot different to, just do rounds, right? In your yard, and then essentially have your uncle go like, hey, you should fight. Like, that's what we're doing. It's completely different.
It is. And it took up all my time. I mean, I stopped dancing, I stopped running track, stopped doing aerial. I just kind of went full-fledged. But I actually started jiu-jitsu. So I did jiu-jitsu for like 4 years straight. And that, I don't really mind. I like jiu-jitsu, but I hurt my leg. And that's what made me transition into stand-up. So I'm like, ugh, I hate it. I don't want to be here. I got cussed out like every day.
Now, what was it about jiu-jitsu that drew you in? I mean, were you an athlete before that? Had you competed in any other sport?
Just track. I ran track since I was 4 years old up until I was 11. So I had that, but jiu-jitsu, it was just kind of easy for me. Everything flowed. I caught on to submissions and stuff really fast. So it was just fun.
And that's it, regardless of whatever you're doing, to be able to keep the fun aspect of whatever you're doing, whether that be sport or not, because especially in combat sports, there's a lot of times where it's not fun at all, right? The training, the weight cutting, injuries that may happen, all of it, the sacrifices that you have to make in your personal life, those aren't fun.
Man, not at all. But you grow accustomed to it after a while. You just gotta kind of come to terms with, like, if this is what I'm gonna be doing with my life, I have to give it my all. Because I mean, I've half-assed this before, and it showed. So you can't half-ass this sport.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I guess where did you go with your how far did you go in your track career when you started doing jiu-jitsu? Were you pretty tenured? Had you competed in some regional or citywide meets?
So I ran club track. They some athletes went to junior Olympics, nationals. I never made it that far. I was bullshitting in track. I was there for friends, honestly. I did it because my brothers did it growing up, watching them. I'm like, oh yeah, be fun. Yeah, no, that wasn't my sport. That wasn't my niche at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, you essentially found yourself by way of jujitsu, right? And what was it about jujitsu that, again, like you said, it flowed to you? So, what was it about it that kind of brought you in and wanted to make you continue in that virtue?
Uh, I didn't feel like I really had much of a choice for a while, like to stop. So I kind of, just kept going.
Keep on going, keep on going. Now, did you start in like the traditional gi, or were you doing no gi? And at this same time, when you're essentially, basically pursuing jujitsu, is your brother? I mean, is your uncle kind of like, oh wait, she's getting one step closer, to where I can train her?
I'm sorry. The connection was a little static.
So I
Could you
was
repeat
saying,
that?
at the same time, was your uncle kind of like, oh wait, she's doing jujitsu. That's one step closer to her, essentially being trained by me.
Well, I started with him. He taught me everything, like from just everything. I didn't start in a gi though. I started no gi. I actually probably trained in a gi like twice. I hate it. I hate the gi, but yeah, he taught me everything. So
No, I'm same way. I have one gi, the one where I started. I watched it every night. It's a Elio 100, Elio Gracie special edition, and that's it. That's the only gi that I've ever bought, and used it up until like I found no gi, and I was like, hey, this is a little bit more fun.
yeah. I mean, getting choked by limbs is one thing. Getting choked by some clothes, like that's some bullshit. I don't. I don't
Yeah,
like
it
it.
is bullshit. Like, and especially if somebody's got like a diamond weave gi, it's almost like similar to my sweater here, and they rub it across your face as they Ezekiel choke you.
Exactly.
You couldn't get more insulted. Like, oh, now we're really fighting, fool. Like, that's it. I know we're training rounds, we're going 30%, but now I'm gonna just like ram into you because you choked me with essentially your sleeves.
Like now I gotta turn it up a little bit over here, disrespect.
Yeah, no, hundred
But
percent.
yeah,
Now, also, a fearless women champion, Jaws Fuller, says, "Let's do fearless again, Tapout Queen. I need to be able to eat my victory tacos with you."
absolutely. Hey, next fearless event, we're in there.
Dang right, dang right.
Hopefully,
So,
fingers crossed.
you can't stop, won't stop. Now, it's kind of fun, right? Because after your your kind of introduction to jujitsu, and you had done it a couple years, like at what point do you start adding the striking aspect of your game?
Like I mentioned before, I hurt my knee. My knee slid out of place. This guy jumped on my back, and I was in like a whole leg brace, but I couldn't stay from the gym. So I was there every day, and that's when we started working my striking. Working my punches, head movement, the little movement I could do, and yeah, and it still took me a long time to like striking, like the whole getting the face, getting kicked in the face. It was just like, who does this? Like, you know? So I honestly didn't fall in love with striking until probably like a few years later when I had my first competition. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's funny. It's like you turned a negative into a positive. You could have just walked away, um, or even just not touched it, until you recuperated fully from your knee injury. But you decided to test yourself yet again, to pick up a new skill set in striking.
Yeah, and it had a lot to do with my coach too. My dad, my uncle, they're my main coaches, pushing me. You could do it. Don't stop. I mean, they released something in me, so you know, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
I know, I know. Which kind of leads to the road to Mexico. So, Jaws Fuller wants to know, tell us about the Nubian takeover in Mexico. Which I want to know.
Um, Man, we enjoyed ourselves. We ate so much good food, tacos. Man, tacos out here don't have shit on tacos in Mexico. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
100%.
It was it was a great experience, though. It was my second time flying international, but it was nice. It was really nice.
No, absolutely. And usually, fighting internationally, those are things that are reserved for a pro, right? So for you to be able to do this twice as an amateur, that's pretty damn cool. Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, well, okay, flying internationally. It was my first time actually fighting internationally.
Oh, okay. Right on, right
But
on.
yeah,
Still, and shout out to Fearless Woman MMA for putting that show on, which Libby and the rest of the Fearless crew basically basically will be on this very show at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. So that's a good watch. I'd say it would be, you know.
yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
again, at what point in your career do you take your first fight?
I did a lot of smokers as I was
Hmm.
coming up, little smoker fights. I took my first one in 2011,
Wow.
and I fought a girl. It was a kickboxing match. I fought a girl with like a face shield on, like, because we had to wear headgear, but she had the face shield. So the whole time I'm hitting her, she's just walking through my punches. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was discouraging. I was crying, and my dad and my uncle took me outside. You gotta pull it together. You got another match. So I fought a boy. Oh yeah, he caught it. I was so pissed off from the other fight. He caught it, and ever since then, I'm like, yeah, I could do this. I could do this.
Wow. And it's funny because like smoker fights, before there was any type of regulation and what have you, for amateurs, especially here in the state of California, that's the way you kind of cut your teeth. That's the way. And it's funny now because of COVID, uh, we're starting to see rises of like street beefs and other kind of backyard promotions because, largely in California, you can't fight. You've seen those, yeah?
Yeah, I know a few people that fought in some. Yeah,
As do I. I've actually had
and
a
actually,
couple people.
kind
Wait, you said
smoker
you
fights were
said
kind of like frowned upon.
really?
Yeah, but
W-
hey, you got to get your reps in somehow. I wasn't old enough for camo, So I
Yeah.
had to, test my feet somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's many Hall of Famer in the world of uh, combat sports that started out that same way, kind of humble beginnings, fighting for beer, fighting for tacos. You know, those guys and gals are in the in the UFC Hall of Fame and other places. So it wasn't totally off.
Yeah, I know you got to start somewhere. And, I always tell people now, get your reps in while you can, because, man, you're going to regret it if you don't.
No, absolutely. So how many fights did you do in like the smoker scene?
Um, I'll probably say like 7, maybe about
Whoa,
7.
whoa. And during this time, are you starting to be put it all together? In terms of your game plan. That you started kind of. I guess getting an educations of what like fights should and would be.
Yeah, well, as far as kickboxing, yeah, because I only had one MMA smoker. All of the rest were kick. I can never find any MMA fights to jump in or any girls to fight. I mean, most of the time I did my smokers, it was guys. Even even in boxing, I fight older women or so I just kind of had to get it how I could, but I didn't. It the only jujitsu that I was getting was in training. I wasn't able to test it out in fights, so you can see like my camel fights. I get taken down, I get
Mm-hmm.
submitted. Tapout Queen, honestly, Tapout Queen is just a name. That's not even who I am. I mean, my jujitsu is up there, but it's not what I like to do anymore. So that's just the name.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. The constant evolution of your game, and that happens even when you eventually turn pro. And it's just like you might have things that get you to the dance, but it's not. It's a weird one for fighters where you're basically accumulating information and skill sets and what have you. And by the time you get to where you have a proficiency, like your body starts to break down. So you kind of have to find that like nice little window in between where your skills are at an acceptable level, and then also your body hasn't accrued the injuries.
Yeah, and my body, I stay injured, honestly. I have like a 70-year-old body over here.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Which Jaws Fuller says in reference to the tacos, she says that Mexico City has the best tacos because she ain't had the Tijuana tacos.
I didn't. We were in TJ for a real short period of time. So, hey, Josh, we're gonna have to go to Tijuana. It sound like
There you go.
put me on
It's just
some. I'm always down to
I
put
was
on
just
some
saying.
food. I'm a foodie over here.
Oh, aren't we all? Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Some handle it better. And I think you and Jaws handle being foodies better than I. Um, I got the Corona weight like literally 2 years before the coronavirus, so there's that. So
I'm sorry. What did you
Jaws,
say?
no worries. Jaws says on our training date we will feast. She says.
Absolutely. Hey, and I could put you on some milkshake spots out here if you like milkshakes.
There you go. There you go. Millions of milkshakes used to be a thing here in LA. They have since passed, but I'm sure the Tapout Queen knows her way around where to get good milkshakes in town.
Absolutely. I put you on some places. I had a milkshake this morning.
There you go. There you go. I mean, if you're training like a champ and what have you, you should get the spoils of a champion, right? So milkshake, you want a title, milkshake them all.
Yep, milkshakes every day. That's my
Yeah,
guilty pleasure right there.
that's so. I mean, what particular flavor is your jam?
Uh, like if I'm going simple, then cookies and cream.
Okay,
But if I'm
yeah.
like on another level, fat type, it could have cheesecake in it. I don't care.
Yo, have you been to Fat Mike's here in LA?
Fat Sal's?
Oh, Fat Sal's. There it is. What did I say?
I've never
I
been
was
to Fat
thinking,
Mike.
yeah, yeah, Fat Sal's, where they literally stick a piece of
Yeah,
cheesecake, a slice of cheesecake, on top of your shake.
yep, yep. I went there 2 days ago. I went there 2 days ago.
10 points. The only time I went was actually when they did the pop out of the Coming to America around Halloween. I want to say like 2018, and
Okay.
we ordered, like, I took
Yeah.
the wife and kids and everything, and they maybe had like 4 items on the menu, but we ordered one of each, spent like $100. But the the sexual chocolate shake was literally like a huge piece of like fudge cake right on top, like right on this in the straw of the shake. It was insane, and everything was good. Shout out to Fat Sal's.
Shout out to Fat Sal's. Hey, man, if I could get sponsored by Fat Sal's, like that would be so dope. Because I literally go like every month.
Yeah, so Fat Sal's, if you're listening, I mean, and you're into sponsoring fighters, this is your jam right here. I
Yeah,
mean,
girl.
two-time champion. Yeah, just
Yes,
saying.
sir.
Now, Jaws says, also, thanks to your coaches for taking care of my puffy eyebrow, tacos and milkshake, then on me the next time we reunite. So,
Oh man, I love Josh. She's the best. She's really the best.
it's
She's full of
awesome.
energy.
And like spiritual awakening and such. Like, like theoretically, I'm older than her, and I should have this like sage experience and like knowledge. Doesn't happen. Like, Jaws is on another
It's
level.
not on
Like,
her
I'm
level.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like a I don't know, spiritual baby. Like I thought I knew stuff, but
It's
no,
okay.
no.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of fighting, right? It's a tough avenue to go down, right? So, was there ever a point, because again, smokers to amateur to the California state title, and then even the fearless title, right? Was there ever a point where you kind of like started to second guess, like, if this was the path for you?
Yeah, it's happened a lot actually. I mean, I'm not sure if people are familiar, but my record is 7-10. So I took lot of losses over the years. So, each one of those losses kind of just after a while got to me because it's like, damn, like I'm not performing the way I know I can, and I'm just like maybe this isn't for me. I felt like that a lot, but I just kind of had to buckle down and fall back in love with it and see what everyone else saw in me. Because I mean, everyone's not telling me this, for no reason. So I just had to kind of see what everybody else was saying and go back in.
No, and that's a very real scenario, and I really appreciate you, talking about that, because it happens with everyone, right? And especially over the last year, fighter or not, you know, uh, everybody was second guessing whatever they were doing in like 2019 and years past. By the time March 2020 rolled around, we were all second guessing ourselves. Like even this, I second guess myself every interview that I've done, every podcast that I've done, like it's a real thing, and I even go like, do I have a bit of imposter syndrome? Because all I do is talk, right? Everybody talks. Like this shouldn't be a skill, right? It's weird, right? And then let you listen to somebody like that you feel is better than you, like better than you as a podcaster, or better or more accomplished as a fighter. Then it really starts to kind of it begins to fester.
Down a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, you were saying?
My connection is so staticky.
No, I was just saying. It begins to make you doubt yourself. But I mean, you figured out a way, to kind of like you said, fall back in love with what got you to the dance.
You said, how did I do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, oh, shit. Um, honestly, uh, it, it took heartbreak. It took heartbreak to fall back in love with fighting. I was in a relationship for 5 years, and I kind of put more into that than I did my training.
Hmm.
And things didn't work out. I was heartbroken, and that's kind of what I think it took for me to buckle down and get back on my shit and fall back in love with fighting.
But that makes you, beyond the titles, that makes you the true champion that you are, and yeah, and just to kind of expound it, Greg Guy wants to know, what did it take to pull yourself into the mindset of those fights not mattering?
Uh, People constantly telling me, it's like, because I get stuck on things. Like, that's just the kind of person I am. So when people are constantly telling you, like, you're better than that, your losses don't matter, let that shit go. You go pro, it doesn't matter. It's just experience. It kind of starts to make sense after a while of hearing it so much. So it's like, okay, it's true, you know? So it was just kind of hearing it a lot and believing it.
No, 1000%. And the world can tell you, but for you to believe it yourself, it's a whole different avenue. It's a whole different fight, so to speak.
Yeah, because I mean, people are gonna say shit all the time, but it's up to you at the end of the day. Like, you have to believe it in order to really, you know, I don't even know how to say it, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I hope.
absolutely, absolutely. Man, like I said, I doubt myself every interview. I doubt myself in every, even when I'm not doing interviews, I'm all like, oh God, there's people out there, persevering that have a lot more whatever, whether it be talent or strife or whatever I think I'm going through. There's somebody worse, right? And man, I don't feel worthy of doing this, right? I don't. Yeah, and that happens like literally every interview. That's like my wife, I've driven insane, right? Because it's just like for the past 4 some odd years, right? To do this and going like, I don't think I'm enough. Look at what Rogan's doing. Look at what Rafa Esparza's doing. Look at what whatever. And I just like, and it eats at you, But it's to find your inner purpose, right? Your inner strength. And I know it sounds like punny and whatever, but like it's really that.
No, that's what it takes. I mean, you just kind of gotta tell yourself, like, nobody's as hungry as me. Nobody's working for what I'm working for. So that things like that make you go harder and pull yourself out of that self doubt. Because I mean, if I kind of feel like if you're gonna doubt yourself, then don't do it. You know, sometimes like there's self-doubt, of course, but you got to believe that you the best, that you're the best.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of the best in terms of philosophies, Jaws says, "Daw, y'all make me want to bow up in this piece." So shout out to Jaws. We're saying it because it's true, Jaws. So you know this. You should know this. Now, I mean, and in terms of like the experience, do you ever think about like what you would be doing, if not for MMA? Like you said, you had that 5 year relationship, and you put a lot of time invested into that, right? So, without MMA, like, what is the Tap Out Queen? Who is like screw the Tap Out Queen. Who is Jasmine Pouncy without fighting? Have you ever thought about it? If it wasn't in your life?
For one, I'd be fat. I know that because I eat like crazy. But in all seriousness, animals, I'd probably be working in a vet somewhere. A few years ago, I think like 2 years ago, I finished school to be a vet assistant. So that was
Wow.
just putting in place my backup plan. Animals is like my first love. So that's probably what I would be doing. Maybe doing aerial still too, because I loved that. I wouldn't be dancing. I know that because shit. I don't know. Once I started fighting, my rhythm left. So I don't. I don't know. But it would be animals or aerial.
I like it. And that's a bit of a dichotomy, right? Because, you fight. I I mean, and essentially you injure other people, but then you're convalescing animals, different species. So it's kind of a paradox, but it's a beautiful one at that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Punch people and save animals. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody actually was I think even Blake Troop, right? Blake Troop actually has a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, right? So he knows how the body works. So this is somebody who can like literally punch you in the face and basically separate you from consciousness and then tell you literally what is happening to you while you're doing it. And I'm like, what is that? That's scary. It's
That's
really, really
dope
scary.
though. That's dope as hell.
Now, yeah, and
That's
Jaws
dope
Fuller
though.
says Dr. Tapout Queen. Just saying, could happen. Could happen. And also, Jaws, you're so sweet. You're like, Adam,
Yeah.
what you do matters more than you could ever know. In fact, you knew it wouldn't be as precious. If I didn't know, it wouldn't be as precious. You're too kind. Far too kind. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Now, in terms of obviously this fight in Mexico, this is pretty special. Like you said, the first time that you had fought internationally in your career. So when did you get the call? I mean, and how does that call happen? Was it Fearless Woman CEO Libby Canella contacting you and your coaches, or was it a third party? How does this conversation begin?
I believe David Dinkin reached out to my dad and Harvey. Sorry, my dad's over
Yeah.
here.
Hey.
um he he's saying hi. They reached out to my dad and my uncle, and they were like, there's a title up in Mexico, amateur. And immediately when they said amateur, I was like, no, I didn't want to take the fight. I mean, I was set on going pro already. We
Right.
were practicing elbows and knees. I'm like, no, like I told you guys, I'm done. That was 16. It was shout out to you, Harvey. Thank you, by the way. Yeah, they hit up my coaches, and I was like, no. And after like a few hours, my coach talked me into it. I'm like, all right, fine, but this has to be the last one, So I took it. It was like what 2 week, a month or two before the
Hmm.
fight was when we got the call. call. So I had a pretty full training camp. I mean, I never stopped training before because I was supposed to have a fight, but COVID hit. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and I guess your 2020 when you were looking down the barrel of your career, like was it turning pro? Was that the deal? And getting maybe one or two fights under your belt in 2020, if not for COVID happening, was that what you were trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we been fighting 16 fights. I mean, we've been fighting for amateur for a long time.
Hmm.
So I mean, I was finally ready, and then COVID just fucked all that up. I have a terrible. I'm sorry, you guys.
No worries, no
I'm
worries.
not terrible.
No, we're gonna get the. No worries, no worries. Now, um, it's kind of crazy, right? Where you wanted this to happen, right? You essentially, willed and work for, the title of pro, to finally make your pro debut. And you talked about the number of fights that you had as an amateur. This is totally excluding, the one MMA and the countless, kickboxing smokers that you had. So, close to 40, 30, 40 fights, you know, that's enough experience. That's it.
Yeah, but I was never mentally ready. It took a lot to get mentally ready to go pro. Like we talked about, I had those self doubts for a really long time, and it just kind of clicked. The fight that I had in San Diego,
Hmm.
when I fought Carolyn Cordova,
Yes.
then I knew I was ready. Not even just because I TKO'd her. It was just like going into the fight. I had a lot going on, but it was like, okay, like I felt good going in, and I felt that same way this time going into the fight. So I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, definitely ready for pros.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And to know, for yourself, right? That, everybody else could tell you, but for you to kind of make that assertion to yourself and know that you have the ability, that's a process that you have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter how ready everyone else tells you. If you're not ready, then it's, you know, I feel like it may not work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Which Greg Guy wants to know, do you feel that COVID actually helped in any bit as far as your training and development as a fighter?
I would say, yeah. The beginning of COVID, when we first went on lockdown, I wasn't training much. I was kind of living that COVID lifestyle, laying around and being lazy. And then I got tired of it. You too. I think everybody kind of fell into that. It's okay. But I got tired of laying around, and me and my coach talked, and we're like, we had plans on going pro. So what are we doing? And shit, we went in. We've been going in ever since.
That's amazing, and to be able to have that time, right? Of course, COVID was this, and we're still living in the time of COVID, right? Where, you know, people are getting sick, people might have it and be good. There are people that are dying. These are very real precautions that are taken, but also as a fighter that might have lingering issues and, holes in the game that they would want to improve, you can essentially do that during this time and come out better than you were, before it.
Yeah, because it affected us, but not like it did everyone else. Because I'm not sure if you know, the majority of our training we do on the road. I mean, we train in the park, at the beach, on hills, so we were still able to do that even with the COVID restrictions. So, it didn't put too much of a, you know, damper in our training. So
I like it. I like it. Big Surge Estrada, Sergio Big Surge Estrada says, the champ, and it was a pleasure watching this young warrior do her thing. That's from him. He's worked with like world champions both in MMA and boxing. This is somebody who knows his stuff.
hey man, he got my hands right for this fight. I was in love with his hand wraps. They were all thin. I'm like, oh yeah. So shout out to you, Serge. Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Yeah, and Serge will be a part of the conglomerate Fearless Crew podcast later tonight. So definitely, he's in Florida, so he'll probably keep it to a minimum of him, but he's still jumping on. So shout out to you, Big Serge, for doing that. Yeah. Which you were talking about the loveliness of the art of the hand wraps that Big Surge provided to you at Fearless 7. So, I mean, what did it feel like as a fighter that has had the experience that you've had to have your hands wrapped, know that you're ready to go?
So I didn't tell him before he was wrapping my hands, but both of my wrists were actually a little funky going into this fight. I mean, I have weak wrists. So I didn't even have to tell him though. I mean, they were secure, and that was one of my main concerns, and he took care of it without me even having to say anything. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's about to be a wrap.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, those little intricacies of fighting that a lot of people kind of gloss over, and when they're not done right, how much that does play a part in the outcome, whether it be win or lose, because it's one less thing that you have to worry about once you step into the ring and or a cage.
It kind of it kind of froze. I'm sorry.
No, it's yeah, but I was saying, the a lot of people, don't look at like the art of hand wrapping being such an integral part of what you guys and gals do, right?
Oh
That's
yeah,
less you have to worry about other things that you could focus on the fight.
yeah, exactly. The way your hand wrap, or ugh, I'm sorry, the way your hands are wrapped is a huge part. And I mean, I've had some funky hand wraps before and came out thumbs busted up, wrist hurting. So yeah, it plays a huge role in how you go out there and perform.
Yeah, absolutely. To which Big Surge replies, definitely would have been nice to know, but glad I took care of your hands, right? Like, that's a big one.
Yeah, I have that issue. I don't let people know, but you took care of it though, so that's all that matters. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Big Surge. Now, one, I guess after this, this fearless title fight. Actually, let's talk about the fight. And your opponent. I was able to purchase the stream on fearlesswomanmma.com. But how was this fight to you? How did you feel?
I felt great. I was a little concerned about how my cardio will hold up in the elevation,
Right.
but I mean, it was definitely time in the fight where I was tired. The air out there is thick, but it held up pretty good. I was a little surprised that I didn't have to use the stool. Like I was joking with my coach before. I was going to tell him like, don't feel, because he always does. But I guess I didn't really need it. But in the fight, I felt good. I was able to have fun. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I had fun in the cage. It was always just business or something else weighing heavy on my mind in there. And this was like the most focused and free that I felt in there, and it felt really good. It felt really good. Like I had a lot of fun in there.
And that's it. Again, when you stop having fun doing this, of course, there's nerves that happen. There's mitigating circumstances before, after. The weight cuts, they suck, right? But there are those pure moments of joy. Those pure moments of magic in the cage where it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Like a lot of people kind of mentioned my showboating in the fifth round, which isn't usually me, but I don't know. I was having fun, and she was tough as hell. I mean,
Hmm.
she took everything I threw at her, and she's a 105er originally. So shit,
Wow.
she reminded me of myself. It's been times where I went up in weight to fight at 125, and I know how tough that is. The power from bigger girls. So, hey, I give all props to my opponent. She was tough as hell.
No, absolutely. And shout out to all of the fighters in Mexico, which I mean, a lot. It's still an emerging market, right, in terms of MMA and MMA prowess. But they have tough and gritty, durable fighters there.
They do. All the girls that fight. I don't. If you guys haven't watched this card yet, you really need to go by. It was some tough ass girls on this card. Mexico girls, man, they're a different breed. They are a different breed out there,
No,
and some of
absolutely.
the nicest women ever.
Oh yeah, so kind, right? So kind, considerate. There was the point after the
Humble.
fight where there's a pretty poignant picture of you and your opponent with ref AJ Jenkins, and you guys are both holding each other. Yeah, it was like a really cool moment, and seminal moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. Shit, shout out to AJ too, one of the best refs out there, female refs out there.
There you go. Give her credit. Give her
Yeah,
props.
total pro, right? And somebody that has been much like Herb Dean, much like
In the cage.
she's she's been in there, right? She knows your plight of a female fighter and how tough it is, right? So for her to be able to parlay that experience, same thing with the guys and having like a Frank Trigg or a Chris Lieben, ref the
Exactly.
fights. It's somebody that knows exactly what they're doing.
And it makes you more comfortable in there. Like they know how it feels to be in danger. So they know when to give you a chance and when not to. So it's that's nice to have in there too.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of the rules, right? I mean, was it because we had a lot of the California amateur officials, pretty much that made up the Fearless crew in Fearless Seven, right? So, were there any different rules than what you had been used to doing, in this particular fight, or was it pretty much status quo?
Everything, all the rules were the same as they
Okay,
were out here. There was nothing different.
that's That's awesome to know. That's and it sets a precedence because California, the scene, both amateur and pro, is some of the most like trend-setting officiating in the world of MMA that there ever has been. A lot of other states look to us as kind of the benchmark, into how to govern stuff. Big John McCarthy and Herb Dean, widely regarded as some of the best refs in MMA history. Well, they're refs here in California. They're born and bred here in California. So, they helped institute, you know, most all the rules.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and Fearless CEO Libby Canello says the Tapout Queen, and I think it's the yeah. I, I can't decipher emojis
Yeah.
well, so
Shout out
yeah.
to you,
So
Libby.
shout out to Libby, shout out to Libby, and I can't wait
Yes, thank you so much.
for the opportunity. Right? She created an opportunity where a lot of fighters, especially female fighters, weren't getting the opportunity, and to have not just Fearless Seven but also Fearless Six during the time of COVID in Mexico. It's huge. It's
Mhm.
huge.
It is, and we're still dealing with the COVID, so being able to fight in this during this time, she's making it happen, man. And for females, it's man, I can't even express how grateful I am for to have that opportunity. So thank you so much, Libby.
Absolutely. And Jaws Fuller says, "Yep, the boss has entered the chat as, yep, she has, and she'll be entering this particular format later tonight. So shout out to Libby. So the $1 million question is right because you pretty much announced that, hey, this might be your final fight as an amateur. So what is the plan for the Tap Out Queen?
I don't have any fights set in stone just yet, but when I
Okay.
do, I'll definitely announce it. But that was it. That was last amateur. We are moving on.
Well, it's kind of fun because I think this might have been the first time ever that a Fearless Woman MMA actually had two professional fights. It wasn't just amateur women's fighting. So, I mean, if you're looking to go pro, there might be a promotion in Fearless that might be able to feature you. Just saying.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely talked about it, and I'm more than open to that. So whoever will take me, I'm there. Hey, and Libby, you have a fighter in me forever.
Love it. And shout out to Libby for all of the work that she does for, I mean, it's not just for you females, which I mean, that's a big reason why she's done 7 cards under the Fearless banner and created Fearless Women MMA. But I mean, she's literally done everything in regards to, you know, combat sports here in California. She trains in jiu-jitsu. She's been an inspector here in California. So she's kind of done
Hmm.
it all, seen it all, and she makes this like Fearless her kind of mark and love letter to the combat sports world.
Yeah, she's gonna do big things for sure. I mean, I've done 2 of her shows already, so and it's only getting better. So she's definitely gonna do big things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Jaws Too Kind. In case you didn't realize, Jaws Fuller is a huge fan of According to Woods, as I am of you, as Jasmine's a fan of yours, and I'm a fan of Jasmine Tapout Queen Pouncy as well. Big fan, huge fan. Which I'm almost
Circle
like
of vandalism.
yeah, it's funny how this whole thing works, and it's cool when it works, And Pouncy Pro 2021 is what Jaws is saying, which that might be a hashtag we might have to put out into the atmosphere, is what I'm saying.
Yep, hashtag Pouncy Pro.
Hmm.
Be on the lookout.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the CEO of Fearless Women MMA herself, it was an honor to have such a great athlete for Fearless Seven. Mexico loves you. That's that that's really cool. That's super cool.
It is. It is. I love Mexico, man. I'm excited to go back.
Yes. So I gotta ask, right? Obviously, you talk about your affinity for milkshakes, right? So what is the Tapout Queen's favorite post-fight meal?
and juicy crab legs.
Really?
Yeah, that's usually my go. I haven't been yet, but that is my go-to. I my dad al- my dad complains about the garlic smell on me for days, but I can't help it.
Garlic is good for the blood. Probably not in that particular instance, but it's good for the blood. It keeps vampires away. So yo, Pops, what's going on?
Not much. What's up, Adam? How you been, Adam? Long time no see.
Good, good. Long time no see. Yeah, and it's man, I miss you. I miss you.
I know, man. I used to stay at your cave side, bro.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. Now, obviously, you've got your dad there, right? So there have been a lot of people that have helped the Tapout Queen get to where she is today, right? Two-time champion, both in Fearless and in the state of California, right? So take as long as you like. Let's get some shout-outs out of the way.
Okay, let's do this. First and foremost, my dad and my uncle, head coach Stellis. Yeah, man, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be doing this because thought of MMA never crossed my mind. So, shouts out to them. My team, Victor, Steven, Bobby, Eli, Derek, Danielle. I'm terrible with remembering. Greg over the years. Ja. Oh, Ja. How can I forget Ja? That's so. If you guys ever see me on Instagram beating up a little black midget, that's Ja. That's that is my favorite. My number one sparring partner, man. He helped a lot with where I am today. So shout out to Ja. I know I'm missing some teammates, but David Dinkin helped me so much throughout my career. Like I appreciate him so much. JT, J-Tan. I actually met J-Tan when I was like 15 or 16. He came into our gym and gave my dad a card. He's like, oh yeah, like when she's old enough to fight, we're ready for her. And sure enough, that was my second fight on his show. So shouts out to J-Tan, always looking out for me and supporting. Tori, Harvey, man, Libby, of course. Who am I forgetting? Tony, Anthony from Spar Star. Damn. Everybody. I know I'm forgetting so many people, but I appreciate everybody that had a hand in helping me get to where I am today. Like, you guys don't even understand how much the support, the love, my family in Ohio that's always checking in, supporting. I love you guys so much. My brothers, it's just everybody. It's a long list. Jay at the smoke shop down the street from my house. He always makes my uniforms, so shouts out to him. I'm forgetting some people, but I'll name you guys. Sure enough, soon enough.
Well, you said everyone, right? And if you're not a part of everyone, like, I don't know. Like, join the club. Everyone's there. And, John says, hey, Pops. Hey, Pops. Oh, no. Not black. I'm going to stay away from that one. And Wick Chad, just prayers and strength and heart emojis. Superstar. Shout out to you, good sir. one of the most talented people on the Instagram. So check out Imminent Threat on Instagram for all of his production savvy. He's tremendous. And Sean Holland says, your pick. Your pick of training partners is what she's laughing at, and I'm so proud of you. Happy for you, beautiful, and love you
Thank
more,
you.
beautiful.
You. Thank you.
Now, obviously, I mean, a throng of supporters here, but for those to see what the fearless woman and California State champion Jasmine Tapout Queen Pouncy is doing as she heads into her pro career, where can they find you on social media?
Instagram at Tapout Queen _. Facebook, Jasmine Tapout Queen Pouncy, and Twitter, not on there much, trying to be more active on there, but I think my Twitter is Tapout Queen.
Yes, it is.
I'm terrible. I don't even know. But yeah.
Oh,
And on my Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, just like I did the same because I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm not smart, but I'm just like, so I don't forget. It's according to Woods to everything. Just do that, you'll be good. I swear.
Yeah.
Even my interviews, hey, it's not even Adam. It's like, hey, what's good, party people? This is according to Woods. This works.
Hey, that's smart. I'm gonna have to do
Just
that.
saying.
'Cause,
It's a happy little mistake. I'm just saying, which is what my parents said to me when they found out I was coming. So, anywho, so again, go ahead and follow Jasmine Tapout Queen Pouncy on all of her social medias. And again, thank you guys for watching us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, I'd warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I mean, Jasmine, you're subscribed, right?
yes, sir.
Dang right. So be like the
I'm
champ.
on here all the time, man.
See? And Pops is too. Shout out to Pops. That's my good brother.
Subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe.
I watch it
That's-
more than she does.
That's the good brother. Just heaping all types of positivity when I'm in his graces. Shout out. Like, he's Pops to you, but he's big brother to me. Like, just shout out to him. Because, again, I don't know. Him and your uncle, like, their pep talks to me every time I'm around him, like, I feel like I'm going to have, step into the cage. So I can only imagine what you must be feeling. So that's on the real. So
We'll get you ready, bro.
yes, I appreciate it. But again, thank you guys for joining us here. Go ahead and subscribe. Follow Tapout Queen. Subscribe to According to Woods. And if you don't believe my word or the champ's word, I don't know why you wouldn't. But just in case you forgot, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zang. Make sure you subscribe.